Welcome to Women Leading Change, the podcast that amplifies the voices and missions of women changemakers from around the world. My name is Laureen Nolan-Card, women's leadership expert, and I'm going to share the strategies that women changemakers use to successfully lead in bold new ways that are in alignment with their values and true to themselves. Listen weekly as I share personal insights and inspiring interviews with women who are being the change they seek to see. So you too can evolve your own leadership skills, grow your own paradigm-shifting business and mission, and be the change we're all seeking. Joining me today is Thyra Whitford. She is a healer, an intuitive, and an international best-selling author. In 2008, Thyra was divinely guided to assist people to heal in a spiritual way. She has since devoted her life to understanding the subtle nuances of the human body, the purpose of the processing of emotion, and the significance of the signs we find in our environment. These discoveries have assisted her to understand and communicate how to unlock the body's healing wisdom, how the mind can resolve its various challenges and conflicts, and how to highlight how special we all are. She is also the author of a reference guide for empaths, Heal, You Have the Power, and she was a contributing author in Sacred Hearts Rising, Breaking the Silence, One Story at a Time. Thanks, Thyra, for being here.
Oh, thanks, Lorraine, for having me. It's amazing.
Thyra, can you tell me and our listeners a little bit about what it is that you are creating in the world?
Okay. What I'm creating is, I believe that I'm here to help people to understand how to interpret the messages around and within their bodies. As an empath, I've been very gifted to be able to touch people and see and feel and know things about them. And so I'm putting together a package where I can share and show people how to do some of that stuff for themselves.
And what do you mean by a package?
It's a course. I'm putting together a course to teach people how to interpret the messages that they get in their bodies.
Okay. And so if someone receives a message through their body, it's about how to interpret that?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And the body is continuously giving us messages. So, it might be in weight. Weight is a good message that the body tells us that something is going on. So it could just be that we're not listening and the body's saying, hey, it's time to get up and go for a walk. And we look outside and it's raining and we say, no, not today, body. We can't do that because we just might melt in the rain. Or it could be that there's some trauma that's kind of happened in our past and the body's holding on to it saying, okay, you still need to look a little bit deeper. You got to kind of figure some of that stuff out. And so this course kind of helps people to just understand something more than you're sick or you're healthy and with nothing in between.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What the goal is?
So my perspective of what happens and in the 12 years of working with my clients, what I've seen is the majority of people are scared of their bodies. They're scared that their body is going to turn on them and become sick or have cancer, or that they loathe their body because they've gained weight and they're ashamed of that and they're angry, or they go through some stuff and go to the doctor and end up with a cocktail of different prescriptions that may or may not work or may cause more problems because of all of the side effects. And sometimes what happens is just, sitting down and listening to what it is that your body's trying to tell you can stop that vicious cycle of beating yourself up because you're not skinny enough or stopping the fear to say, okay, what else could it be if it isn't, if I go to the doctor and they've done all these tests and it comes back negative, then instead of being mad at my doctor because they're not getting it, What else could it be? Like, where else can I look? Because something is going on. My body's telling me something, but if it's not that I'm sick, then what else is my body telling me?
Right. What are the messages? What does that look like?
Sure. So there's subtle messages about, what you can eat and how much exercise you can do. But there's also like the messages of the soul. Like, you've probably heard of the fight or flight or freeze, right?
Yes.
That's your body kind of telling you that in this situation, right, there's an optimal thing that you can do. And so we need to listen to that. So that's one of them. One of my clients, and I can't say the names because everything's in confidence, but she came and she was with a fellow, and they had been dating for about a year and a half. And in that year and a half, her pelvic floor became very unstable. Very unstable. And she knew that it wasn't the right connection for her. And so, we kind of worked through and we got them to take a break, and we got her to think about maybe not having a romantic relationship with him, and her pelvic floor cleaned right up and got, nice and healthy again. Another example is a fellow, I work with his wife, but he got a very odd ailment that came in, and it was pain that came in all around his midriff. And so they took him to the hospital, and the hospital couldn't find anything, and nobody really understood what was going on, and that pain didn't stop, but they sent him home. And so his wife phoned me, and I went over, and what we found was there was a past life event that had happened where he was in a car accident, and that car had kind of squished him in half. And he had a message that he wanted to tell his family that didn't get out in that lifetime. Wow. It was the same family, and with the messages, as the messages came, the pain started to release, and then he never had that pain again.
Wow.
So it's just little things like that. It's just different things of how to look at some of the things that are happening. If your body isn't the weight that you feel it should be, and some people feel that they should be heavier, and some people feel they should be lighter. But if the body isn't the weight that you feel comfortable, if you don't have energy, if you're feeling like you're needing to do something or go somewhere or go to a different place on the planet, then your body will actually give you all kinds of messages about that.
Would you like to share with us what would be like the first step if I'm somebody who's, my body is not feeling really healthy, is not maybe the weight that I want it to be, or it's not as vital as I want it to be. What would be the first step if I were to come and see you?
Yeah,
what would you do?
Yeah. The first step that I would say is, when did this start to happen? Because when it happened, oftentimes is a clue as to what's going on inside of you. So we usually start to gain weight, if it's about weight, when we're not happy, or when something needs to change and we're not changing something. So then when we can kind of go back and look at some of those things, we can kind of find where things need to move, where we need to look at things a little bit differently.
Okay. All right. And your course then, is that an online course?
It's an online course, yeah.
Okay. So obviously you're not seeing people in person then. So are you guiding people to look at themselves, giving them kind of the cheat sheet of their own body, how to examine it?
That's correct. Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm taking people through some different meditations of how to be mindful, of how to really feel your body, kind of going back in time, kind of seeing where those triggers might be for you and what they might be causing inside of you. We go back and we look at things like the chakras, because even though for people that aren't really clear about the chakras, and they might not believe that the chakras are, anything valuable, the chakras are actually the energy fields, and sometimes they just kind of run a little too deep in us and cause problems in the spine, or some of those things where doctors they're not looking for that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that this is kind of something that someone would come to after they've seen a doctor and there's no obvious medical reason, or they're about to be prescribed a whole bunch of different medications and maybe there are alternate ways of dealing with things? Is that where you would come in?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. What I would say is if you're willing to try something besides the Western medicine, and I'm not saying doctors aren't good or Western medicine isn't good, but if you're willing to try something else, if the doctors can't find anything, or before you go on pills, because pills just, some of them are good, like they're out there because the intention is for them to help us, but they seem to cause a lot of side effects, a lot of problems. And sometimes we don't need a pill. Sometimes we need to have a discussion about something that happened in our past. Sometimes we need to, just kind of take some space away from somebody that's not healthy for us, right. and when we do that, we don't need a pill, but if we don't know that if we don't know we can do that to begin with, then we're going to try to stay and kind of ride it out and make it better. And even though our body is really giving us all kinds of signs to do something different.
Mm-hmm. And so you're not saying that you replace Western medicine. You say, it sounds like you're alongside of, parallel to, as another way of assisting your body to be healthy.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's a really good way to put it. I don't. I know there's a lot of energy workers and healers that kind of think that their way is the very best way, but I kind of think that all ways are very good ways, because everybody has intentions to help other people to heal their bodies. This way is just about getting people more proactive in their own body and kind of figuring out more things about themselves, so that they're not giving all their power away.
Right. Yes. There's so much power in the body. Right.
Yeah.
How did you come to be doing this work?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Lorene. I am as an empath. I was, it's kind of a hard story for me to kind of talk about, but there are, when I was in 2008, I feel like I was visited by spirit, by angels, and they came in. I was going through a really hard time, and they came in and basically told me I was off path. I wasn't doing what I had agreed in my divine agreement. I didn't even know what a divine agreement was at the time. And yes, from that point, I learned about energy. I learned about healing. I learned about my gift as an empath and how to evolve it and turn it into something really quite magnificent and something that I feel really good about, instead of something that I feel like I'm just being bombarded by. So, yeah.
So you're an empath. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, empath means that I can feel the sensations of others. So whether that's emotional or whether that's physical or even spiritual. So I've actually written a book on this. It's called Reference Guide for Empaths, and I am putting out the kind of latest, greatest edition of it, where there are 11 different types of empaths that do different things and pick up on different and on different energies. And if you have one, chances are you have more than one. So there's the physical empath, and then there's the emotional empath, but then there's the empath that can pick up on spirits, and there's the empath that can pick up on plants, and so
Right.
and there's the behavioral empath. So when you see somebody kind of behaving out of character when they're around somebody else, that they're probably an empath picking up on that. So
it's fascinating. I heard Gary Zukov, who wrote The Seed of the Soul many years ago. He's come back into kind of mainstream Oprah and all of that again. And maybe he never left, but he mentions, I think even way back 25 years ago in The Seed of the Soul, how we are becoming more multi-sensory.
Love it.
And his belief is that there are more of us multi-sensory people on the earth now than there ever were. And so the collective consciousness of all of us is raising the evolution of us in the world right now, and
Wonderful.
us as a species of human beings. So I was just curious, when you wrote about the empath and the different types of empaths and the guidebook to how to be an empath and not be taken, down by that. You mentioned that you didn't know you had a divine contract before you were visited by spirit. Did you know you were an empath before that?
I didn't have a word for it.
No.
Before I was kind of visited by spirit, well, actually, this was before I had my son. I knew that I had it, but it caused all kinds of problems for me because I could feel people's, stuff. And then I would, of course, being very compassionate, I would go and say, hey, how you doing? And I would really offend people because, not everybody wants their stuff aired out with somebody that, unless they choose. Right. And so I had to learn, right? I had to learn, some guidelines and boundaries, and when my son was born, there was some things that happened. He had a fall and had a brain injury, and it was in that time where I really decided that I was never going to put these gifts away again. I was going to bring them out. They had to help. I just felt like they were going to help, and so I took them out, and I just decided to work them until I could figure out how to make them amazing, make them feel great. Right. And so maybe I could teach other people, but in the moment I was just wanting to help my son.
Right. So. Right. When do you think you first learned that you had to put your gifts away?
I've written about this a little bit, and it's in the book called Heal You Have the Power, that's coming out on October the 25th. It's not my book, it's a compilation.
Oh, fantastic.
And it kind of talks about this a little bit. But what happened the first time I was 5, and I was in the doctor's office because my mom didn't know what to do with me. And the doctor suggested shock therapy. And
oh, gosh.
So if you want to know what happened, October 25th, the book launches.
Great. Okay. and you'll give me the link to that, and we'll link that. Fantastic. Wow. And so I'm assuming that as you grew up, you put your gifts away. And then how old were you when you decided, I'm not going to be putting my gifts away anymore?
Yeah, my son was about 5 months old, so I would have been just 30.
Okay.
And it was that was the moment that there it's if there was any kind of defining moment where I made a solid decision and I've never gone back, that was the moment. So.
Right. That's great. So you've been using your gifts openly in the world then for some time, and you are now helping other people to use their gifts, or at least not hide them, through your writings and your course. I'm curious what kind of adversity or challenges that brought for you when you began to live openly as an empath in the world.
Yeah. It's interesting because before I decided to live openly with the gift, I had a lot more adversity than when I actually decided that, this is on, it's open, y'all got to deal with it. And
Wow.
I had less strife, and I found that more people, when I would talk openly about it, more people would say, "Oh yeah, me too," or "Hey, I know somebody that really is, having a hard time with this," and I found that the more open I was, the more it became the norm, which was fascinating to me because these things. My question is always, why is that? But it's kind of just the way that it went. And now before then, the biggest struggle is, and I still get this sometimes, but I think I just don't feel it the same way. Where people kind of look at you like you have three heads, or like you're gonna do something really weird and scary. And when I was younger, my big fear was that people who don't understand something tend to do bad things, right? Like when not you, but when people don't understand things, their reaction is usually not very positive. And so that was always my fear. But as I grew really strong with being an empath, I discovered that I can read you.
Right.
I can tell, like, if you're not okay, and we'll change the topic. Like, it's okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What a gift. You don't need to guess what's going on. You can read that.
Yeah.
Amazing. What kind of challenges have there been as you've worked through this, though? Maybe, so it hasn't been as challenging as it was before, or at least for you, once you aligned with your gifts, there was more ease and for you. What kind of challenges have you come up against, though?
There are always challenges. Part of I probably have two challenges. There's one of them is when folks are with me and they can feel the spirit, and it feels really good for them, and they kind of believe it, and then they go into the real world, and of course the real world is a lot more busy and cumbersome, and it's really a lot harder to connect on your own.
Yeah.
Then there's a challenge there. So there's either a challenge that they sometimes are feeling like they want to. I've had people kind of say, I just want to have a room in your house. And then I've had somebody say, well, it's not, it can't be real, because like it only happens when I'm with you, and when I go home and I try to do it, I can't do it. So it can't be real.
Interesting.
And anything in between. So there's challenges that way. And the other challenge is just kind of knowing where to and how to market this. So I've had my personal challenges where the stuff that comes into me is really spiritual, and like I'm all for the woo-woo stuff, but there's another part of me that, like, I wasn't this way before 2008, right? So there's another part of me that's kind of saying, okay, so how can I reach the people who are a little bit more logical, that, and bridge this somehow. And like, I found some challenges there, and I find that, the more that I try to do that, the more that I probably shouldn't try to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just it's a thing that kind of happens inside of me where I feel like I want to help more people.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. So I can totally see how that might go. And I just feel like the more that you step into the full truth of all that you are, the higher your help goes, the higher your gift goes. It comes to those who need it the most, and the rest of us, we will love it for what it is, and it will be so much greater than you can even imagine if you are all that you're meant to be. I just feel like it's such an incredible gift that you have to offer. And my feeling when you were talking about, I need to, how do I bring this to the logical part of the world? My immediate feeling was, oh, don't do that. Don't dim your light. Don't make it logical. Just bring it on. Bring the whole thing on, because it's so amazing. It's such a gift. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And that is the challenge, right? The challenge is to stay with it, stay with the gift. And my partner is very logical, and and so very spiritual, and very, very logical, and every now and then, right? Not so nice and fuzzy. So
and so you're meeting that challenge now. You're bringing it into the digital world, and you've created a course to help people to interpret the messages from their body. Is there anything else that you're bringing into the world that we haven't touched on yet?
Oh, there's there will be it's a bit of a journal of my findings. So I'm going to be creating this journal of my healing findings. It'll be sort of like the Louise Hay Heal Your Body, except it'll be a little bit different because, of course, it's coming from me, and I'm not sure that it's affirmations that are going to help as much as it's just kind of information. And it's mulling right at the moment, so it's coming through. But since 2008, I've had the honor of working with people, and sometimes things have been very consistent. And so, if, for example, we're working with knees, and you're having problems or arthritis in the knee, typically the knees, and it's the same with Louise Hay's book. If it's going to work with you, it's going to work really well. Right. But if it doesn't work with you, then maybe this one will. So, for the knees, what I found are when we know how to do something another way, and we decide that we're going to go back and do it the old way, that's typically what lands in the knees.
Oh,
so
interesting.
We get kind of sore knees for really no reason, and pretty soon we've got a little something in there, and now we're just going to call it arthritis because that's just the logical and just life. That's just we're not going to look at it anymore. It's just that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. So,
and here's your pills.
Here's your pills.
Great. Fascinating. I had a guest on a few weeks back who spoke about the chakras and the lower half of our body between our midriff and our toes. And she's written a book about the chakras in that area that we don't often learn about. And she had, like you, a lot of wisdom to share about that. Very interesting that the kind of work that's going on is so multifaceted around the body. Now, I just want to bring this in because as a person who's been trained to be very logical and to work from my mind for at least the first 30 years of my life, I found, I think it was after my children were born, and I started to do some healing work for my body, and someone said, listen to your body. And my response was to chuckle and say, oh my God, no, I can't listen to my body. First of all, I don't. It's just what I get to use to take my brain from one place to the other. And secondly,
it's just a vehicle. That's it.
It's just the vehicle. Yeah. And secondly, if I listen, I'm not going to hear good things. My body is not going to be very happy with me.
That's the ticket. That's what just about everybody goes to, is that we're self-punishing. I can't listen because I don't want to hear what it has to say, because I had that bag of chips last night, or I had that chocolate bar the other day, I had that piece of gum, or I didn't go for that run. Oh yeah, we do it all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not what the body says. So.
No. So what does the body say?
The body is kind of not usually punishing you. It's usually trying to tell you direction. Okay, so sometimes it can be saying, okay, let's go for a walk. And the more that you say no to that, the more that you won't be able to hear your body. Right. So an example is that I had gained some weight, and menopause was coming in, and there was all that kind of stuff, and I was trying to figure it out, and because that's what I do, but I gained some weight, and my body kept saying, every morning when I'd wake up, it would say 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups. 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups, 50 every morning, right? It's like, I don't want to do 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups. Like, I don't want to. But when I started doing it, I felt way better, right? And the body will tell you, and it'll be in ways that you can recognize. It'll sound like that. Go for a walk. Oh, I can't go for a walk. It's raining outside. I can't go for a walk. Well, here it's snowing these days.
So the messages, how do they come through? What do they look or sound like? How do we know?
So sometimes you'll hear them. Sometimes it'll be, okay, usually it's in things that you don't like. Okay, so it could be a rash, it could be a bump, it could be weight, it could be a mysterious sore that just kind of shows up, or a fungus, or like all of those things are little notices that your body is telling you something really good, really good. It doesn't look good, doesn't feel good, but it's really good.
And it's good when we listen. And we follow.
It's good when you listen, because whatever it is that your body has to tell you, so your body might be saying, you might think that your body's saying, okay, don't eat those chips, but your body might actually be saying, okay, let's go back to last Saturday. Because last Saturday, this thing happened and it triggered you to want to eat that bag of chips. So let's look at that thing that triggered you last Saturday, because that's really important to look at right now.
Right.
And we never really know why it's important, but when the body is kind of bringing messages to us like that, it's really a good idea to listen to them, because when we listen to them, then we can actually learn something more about maybe what we're doing here, maybe about how to feel better, maybe about how to feel special. We're all really special, and we're all trying to find our special. And sometimes just the body messages are here to say, okay, you know what? You're an empath. You've got a gift that is kind of opening, and it's really crazy right now because you're not accepting it. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's figure out about an empath.
Right. We're all here doing our work and trying to find our way. And I found it interesting that you said that you learned that you had a divine contract, but at the time you didn't even know that a divine contract was a thing. Yeah. What's your divine contract?
Well, in that moment, of course, they come in and they said, you're off path and you're not doing what you agreed to do before you came. So I think those divine contracts are what we agreed to do before we ever came down to the planet. And for me, mine, I believe, from what I can tell so far, is to be the empath, is to help people to understand their gifts, is to help people to heal and understand their bodies and not be scared of the journey, not be scared of the body.
Beautiful. That's a very noble purpose and contract to be on.
It's not always easy, right? No. Like it sounds really good. And I would love to say, oh yeah, and I follow that religiously, but I fall off the bus. So
yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. And you fall off and you get back on, right?
Well, it never feels good when you fall off the bus, right? Like I was off the bus for, 30 something years, about 30 years. And actually when in 2008, I was in my 40s. So 40 something years that I was off the bus. And although it's okay, it's not nearly the same as, being able to hear and follow spirit and seeing the bigger picture and the bigger path and purpose and helping people to go from one place to another. Like there's nothing like it, but still being human, I still find myself in that, like you were saying, in that place of logic. It's like, well, yeah, but part of me is still logical. Like, what can I do for the logical people?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do so that I don't fight so much with my partner? Huh.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. What do you do when you find, I've got two questions. One is, what do you do when you find you've gone off the path again? Is there something that happens for you so that you get a clue? Oh, darn, I'm off the path. Or you get reminded. And what do you do?
Yeah. And yes, of course there is, right? Because when you're on path feels fantastic, right? And nothing ever feels 100% like the angels have opened up the heavens and there's, it never feels quite like that. But comparatively, when you're on path, you're healthy, you're happy, you're able to make sense of things. It feels much better to be here. So when I find, like I was kind of alluding to, maybe not alluding, but kind of telling you about how my partner and I have arguments from time to time, that's a really good indicator for me. When I'm fighting with him, I'm off path. So it's time, and it's so frustrating whenever I fight with, it's just unbelievably frustrating. And when I find myself there, that is the time what I do is I go out in nature, I take a nice breath, I take nice time for myself.
Right.
But there's three things that I do. The first thing that I do is when I know that I'm off path, but it hasn't really taken me too far down into the cauldron, I meditate, and I sit with I have three guides that I'll sit with in this meditation, and I'll just say, okay, I get it, I'm off path, direct me. And sometimes they'll tell me right away, and sometimes I have to wait. So I'll give it about 3 days, and then I'll just look for all the signs around, all the physical signs, all the emotional signs, and kind of make my decisions from there, and figure out how to get back on path. Then the next thing that I do is to go neutral. I find that going neutral is another thing that I can do when it's really super bad. And it doesn't matter what I do. I can't even get myself to that place of being able to meditate because there's so much, stuff that's swirling around. I will take myself for a check. I'll walk myself in nature, and I'll check it and say, okay, you know what? I can't make sense. Nothing feels good. If I go, it doesn't feel good. If I stay, it doesn't feel good. So I'm too deep into it. I'm going to go neutral for 3 days, and I'm not going to make any decisions one way or the other. And I'm going to just allow whatever's going to come through on that fourth day. I'm going to allow myself to feel again on that fourth day and put these things together. So when it gets really crazy, that I do that. And the other thing that I do, which is kind of in between, where I'm sort of off path, but I'm not really too deep in it, is I ask Spirit, I just say, give me a sign in ways that I can recognize that I'm on path. And then I go looking for the signs. Now, what I discovered with the neutral is when you go looking for the signs, you're always going to find them. Right. So if you're too deep in the cauldron and you're getting all these signs, oh, yeah, you're good. Keep going. Right. Keep going. But you're so deep that it's not feeling good. Then it's time to go neutral.
Right. Wow. That's great advice. 3 great tips. Going neutral. How do you do that? What does that mean?
Yeah, going neutral for 3 days really isn't the very easy thing to do. But going neutral in general, just to talk about neutral, it's not a very easy thing to do for most people because we want to drive the bus. And so for me, for some people, neutral is blank. You just go blank, and when I'm reading with Spirit and Spirit messages coming in, I just allow the Thyra part to be blank, and then Spirit comes in with whatever pictures or whatever messages come through me. But to actually have me sit in meditation and go blank, like I'm a processor, I'm an analyzer. Like I can't do that. So for me, neutral doesn't work like that. Where it works for me is where I say, okay, I don't know the answers. I'm gonna put it out there. And I'm going to imagine that my Creator's standing right in front of me, and I'm not going to tell him how to do that. Like I'm going to let him tell me how to do that. Him or her or they or love or whatever that is.
Yeah, right. And I kind of feel like that's happening all the time, really. I mean, we aren't in control.
Yeah. No.
Really.
It's a good game. It's a really good game.
It's a good illusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But really the universe is in control, and we're doing what we're meant to be doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Great advice. Ways to get back on track. And how about how you sustain yourself? Because as an empath, there can be a lot of challenges, lots of information coming in. The world isn't really set up for empaths and their gifts. So what do you do to help with some of the challenges that come with being gifted that way?
Yeah, that's such a good question. When I wrote my book, I really felt like there was some of these answers that kind of came in, and I'm happy to share some of these here because if there's any empaths that are listening, some of these things I've found kind of saved my life. So one of the things the first logical thing that I do is to go out in nature and touch a tree and touch the ground and really, even if there's snow on the ground, like just touch a tree. You can always touch a tree. And if you get a whole bunch of snow on you, you probably were supposed to.
Yeah.
So there's some very lovely nature things like that, and also watch your animals that are paying attention to you. So notice what you're noticing. Watch who's paying attention to you, and go in and figure out what that animal means to you. So those things are really, really on a logical level for me as an empath. Those things really serve me well. And on a spiritual realm, as an empath, what I've discovered is when I'm feeling, because the empath doesn't even know that it's not their stuff. And we bring in emotional and physical. And so when I'm feeling stuff and I'm realizing then, like I've had to learn to ask the question, wait a minute, is that mine? Is that mine? What, like I'm feeling lousy right now. I feel like somebody just landed on my leg. What did I do to cause that to happen? Okay, nothing. It's not mine. Okay, so that's the first question. What do I do to feel like I'm grieving? Like what on earth could be happening to make me feel like this? Oh, okay, nothing.
Right.
Maybe it's not mine. Yeah. And so when you discover that, but it's about training yourself to ask that question, is it mine? And that's going to be the next book that comes out. That's the updated book from the reference guide for empaths is going to be called Is It Mine? And then the very next thing is, if you are feeling this sensation, this heavy, then you are pulling it only a very small fraction from, and you're not even pulling it, you're just feeling a very small fraction from the person that you're picking up on. So they must be going through something quite catastrophic in order for you to feel it the way that you're feeling it. For most empaths, we pull it in pretty heavy. And so there's a little exercise for that, and I call it a call to action. And what it is just to open up the crown chakra, really allow light and love and wisdom and peace and that God energy, if you will, that universal, divine, beautiful energy to come in and just feed you and fill you up until you're overflowing. And while you're doing this, you're breathing. You're doing nice, slow inhale, nice, slow exhale. And when you feel or see or imagine that light is coming, dripping over your head, keep the flow coming in and let that drip go down to Mother Earth and let her take that energy to wherever it needs to be. Don't direct it. It's none of your business. It's not your job. Yeah. So, but let her take it and take care of it. And that little exercise has saved me so many times. And it's also the exercise that taught me that all empaths are healers. Because when we get the sensation, we're supposed to do something with it. We're not supposed to just run and hide and feel bad because somebody bombarded us with something.
Right. And that ties in with something that you said earlier before we got onto the recording about being an empath and what that means in terms of being in the world as an empath openly. And you said something about protection versus being openly healing.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. The information, when I discovered that I was an empath, the only thing that I could find out in the world to kind of tell me anything about being empathic said, protect yourself. You're being bombarded by other people's energies. There's psychic energetic vampires and psychic vampires, and it just kind of went on and on. Like everybody's got a different term for it, but it all kind of means it's all bad, right? And it's all really scary stuff.
Protect thyself.
Protect. Like wear this amulet and say this prayer and get these angels around you and do these things. And, I did all those things when I first, discovered that this is what was happening. I read and I did these things, and they would last for, weeks, and then they would kind of eventually dwindle off, and then they might last for days, and they would dwindle off, and then they might last for hours, and then they wouldn't work anymore. And, then I would try the next thing, and it would go through the same process, and I'd go on and on. And it wasn't until I actually got the call to do this where Spirit came in and said, instead of protecting, you're here to help them to heal. So do the call to action. And then I would do the call to action, and that would last for an hour, and I'd have to do the call to action, and it would last for a week. And then I would do the call to action. It would last for a month, and I would do the call to action. And it would last for, I can go into public places now, and I don't have to, rush in and rush out and then, put a new oil or a new amulet. I can actually enjoy people again and masses of people. But when I do feel them, that's my call to do something for them. It's not my call to protect myself. It isn't their energy that's bombarding me. It's my energy that's going and bombarding them and coming back to me saying, hey, this guy needs this and she needs that, and you need to do this for her. But I can't recognize it that way. It feels to me just like it's just like they're bombarding me with something.
Right.
So,
yes.
As
the
receiver. Answer? I went off a bit.
No, I love that. And because I think there's a message in that for other empaths, especially, young ones, because there is a lot of that energy around protecting yourself. And myself, I found that you can only wear that kind of armor for so long. And then you're the one who's trapped under the armor, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's exhausting.
And so when you're more opened up, you're able to actually, what I'm hearing is how you open up and spread your power, that empathic gift. As you share it and spread it out into the world, you actually are increasing your own personal power.
That's right.
And so there's no need for protection because you have out beyond your person and out beyond your energetic field, this personal power.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that message. And I think that there's a lot of worth in that for people who might find themselves in a very similar situation. So thank you for that. And so if we want to connect with you, Thyra, and we want to support you, if our listeners would like to support you financially or in other ways, how can we do that?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking that question. So to connect with me, the information the email is info@thyrawhitford.com.
Okay.
And my website is thyrawhitford.com, nice and easy.
And it's WHITFORD.
That's right. And Thyra is THYRA.
Great. Thank you.
So, yeah, that's and on our website and with our rollouts, like we've got a membership program that we're rolling out right now to kind of help people who are gifted or empathic or who want to know more about kind of how to translate their body or their environment or, all kinds of the really luscious, great woo-woo stuff that, that people are scared of talking about, but we kind of dig really deep into some of that stuff and make it make sense. And we have the course. We have a course to translate your body that's running. It starts on, I believe, November 23rd. Okay. And it's a 6-module, 6-week online course where I go through the things that I know that I could make into very easy steps for people to be able to start looking at and reading their bodies Actually, email me at info@thyrawhitford.com and we'll send the information to it, because our website is under construction right at the moment. So best way to connect with me is to email me. Okay,
great. Awesome. And it goes for how long?
It's the 6-week course where it will roll out in 6 weeks, but I also do like a group call with folks that are taking this course, and the calls go for 9 and maybe longer, 9 weeks, because these things tend to not be absorbed right away. So I want to make sure that I'm available for when people are kind of working through their stuff and help them as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. And the membership, is it open now?
The membership is open now. Yeah, we are taking, we are accepting folks for membership. We're kind of taking our list right now, and then we're just so close to just setting it right up. So, fantastic. And what will happen with membership is there'll be a written blog, there'll be a video blog, and then there'll be a teaching or an interview every month. Fantastic. And that will be posted on a site where, if you're a member, you can go and see the past postings, just kind of like you do with your stuff.
Right. Got you. Okay. So we would also find out about that through info@thyrawhitford.com.
Yes. We're setting it all up right now. And so, if you email info@thyrawhitford.com, we'll send you the information.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us.
That's amazing.
And sharing so much of yourself and your story. There's so many layers to all of this that I wish we could keep talking, but I appreciate that you've given the listeners a taste of your world and what you're putting out into the world. And I know that you're making a huge difference. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. Thanks for doing what you're doing, because this rocks. It's really nice.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes and subscribe. When you leave us a review, I'll select one lucky reviewer each month to receive a special prize. You can also find us on the very special Divas That Care network at divasthatcare.com. Until next time, keep being you.